right. It says I'm live, so if we are, just please let me know so I'm not talking to nobody here. Let me pop out the chat really quick. Okay. All right, so just let me know if you can hear me. See, everyone's popping in. Hello. What's up, Travis? My hi, I'm Kyle Bush. I'll answer that shortly. Just going to say hello to everyone first. But yes, I am. What's up, dude? What's up, Jason? How many times is he going to get a drink of water? Over, under 4? I would definitely take the over. It's the morning, so I'm pretty thirsty. What's up, Brent? Good morning. What's up, John? What's up, Dirty Bird? We're good. You guys can hear me? Yep. Okay, cool. Let's see. Steven, over for sure. You know our boy Chris needs that morning drink for his vocals. Yes, for sure. For sure. That other video I did for the preview, I could not talk. Man, it was terrible. What's up, Jason? What's up, Casey? What's up, DeBriz? Good morning. What's up, Lucas? What's up, Greg? What's up, Purist? What's up, Cameron? Casey? Joshua? Jim? What's up? What's up, everyone? Can't say hi to everyone. We'll be here forever just saying hello. I don't want to waste your guys' time saying hello to everybody. What's up, John? So before we just start doing questions, we're going to do the usual process of me talking about who I think is going to be very high owned and then some decent pivots off of those guys. And if you want my most polished thoughts, all of those are on Patreon. The sheets loaded up, articles written, rankings, projections, all of that stuff is up. So let me just keep looking at the chat here. Everyone's tuning in. Not going to start too quick just to let more people roll in. What's up, Cody? What's up, Matthew? OS, Scott, hello, Chris, Tim, Jack. Jack says, are we getting islands today? Hopefully. I wouldn't mind an island. What's up, Trevor? What's up, John? It's all right. All right. So, guys I think are going to be high owned on this slate. So let's start in this 10K and up tier. I think the obvious plays are going to be Harvick, Truex, and Kyle Busch. And I know what you're thinking. Denny Hamlin is on the pole for this race, and he's at a pretty decent price point. And he actually has been fast at high tire wear tracks this season, but I feel fine fading Denny Hamlin. You can sprinkle him in, but I don't mind a fade on Denny Hamlin because I think Truex is a much better play. Harvick and Kyle Busch. If Hamlin leads the first 25 laps, so be it, but I just don't think he's going to retain that lead after the first round of pit stops because, first of all, he's got a terrible pit stall selection because it was horrible performance at Martinsville. Not really his fault because Joe Gibbs had issues early on, but still he's gonna have a horrible pit stall. And Truex has got the first pit stall, and I can see Truex getting to like second or third place before the competition caution comes out. So I think Truex has a big advantage there. I think Harvick can come up quick, and I think Kyle Busch could contend for the lead early on as well. Wouldn't surprise me if he was up front after the competition caution waves. So yeah, I'm going to be a little bit low on Denny Hamlin, but I think the chalk's going to be Kevin Harvick. I mean, he just checks every single box this year and just really at recent track history and track type form. He's crushed high tire wear tracks. He's been fast all season. He's great at Homestead. Now, I'm putting a little bit less emphasis on Homestead track history just because it's different conditions. It's not the championship race. It's going to be raced during the day. Hopefully, I know there's rain in the forecast, so it might end up being a night race anyway. I haven't really looked at too in-depth on the forecast, but I know Florida's always got those chance of pop-up storms throughout the day, so hopefully it's nothing major. And what else did I miss? There's something else I was going to say, but I forget. But just different track conditions, so not going to completely rely on track history here. I think looking at recent track type form at other high tire wear tracks is pretty important, and just how they've looked this season so far. And Harvick checks every single box. Yes, he is super expensive, but it's still really easy to fit him in because you got guys like Cole Custer, Eric Jones, Almirola, and Tyler Reddick all way too cheap. So you can make a very balanced lineup even with Kevin Harvick at nearly $12,000. And you got Martin Truex Jr., who has the first pit stall here. He won the Martinsville race, and Truex, this is another really good track for him. He crushes high tire wear tracks, so I think Truex is an excellent option today. You can fit him in with Kevin Harvick. It's really not a problem. It makes your lineup still a little bit top heavy, but it's still pretty easy to fit him in. I mean, you got Michael McDowell who comes in at 51 or 5,200. So if you want to fit in Truex and Harvick, that is perfectly fine. Two of my favorite dominator plays on the entire slate. Truex has looked great so far this season, especially recently. He's really finding his speed, so I think Truex is an excellent option. I do think he'll be lower owned than Kevin Harvick. So if you're picking between the two, I think Truex is a nice pivot off of Harvick, but I think they're both excellent plays. And then Kyle Busch, the other chalky guy who I think might be the highest owned dominator just because of his price range at $10,100. Yes, he killed you at Martinsville, but again, they had issues. They really can't do anything about that. If your car has issues, there's nothing you can do. So he's starting fourth. He is 10,100. He is great at Homestead. He won the last race, and he's great at high tire wear tracks. Past 10 races, he has the most wins at them with 3 wins and 7 top 5s out of the past 10 races. So I think Kyle Busch is an excellent play. He's one of my favorite plays on the slate at that price tag. I know this season he hasn't really been much of a dominator besides Bristol. I mean, other than Bristol, I don't think he's led a lap this season, maybe 1 or 2. I think he had a couple at Daytona, but I don't really count Daytona. So, yeah, Kyle Busch, I mean, look, I know he hasn't dominated this year really outside of Bristol, but at 10,100, it's going to happen at some point, and you want to be ahead of the curve instead of lagging behind. You don't want to miss out on Kyle Busch dominating today and then playing the next week, and then you just bust at a higher price point. So I want to try to get ahead of the curve here. I think Kyle Busch is a really good play, and I expect him to be really high owned. I know he burned a lot of people at Martinsville, but I think people are smart enough to realize Kyle Busch should probably be right around Martin Truex and Kevin Harvick price range. So do like Busch. I do think he's going to be very popular. Going to some more mid-range, really popular plays. The 7K range, well, I guess Reddick, and then the 6K range is absolutely loaded on this slate. Like, absolutely loaded. We have Eric Jones at 6,500, Eric Almirola at 6,300, Cole Custer at 6K, then you have Tyler Reddick at 7,300. So Tyler Reddick, I expect him to be very popular. He should probably be around 8,300 if we're being honest. We're getting him at a nice discount. He's starting 24th, and this guy, I know it's the Xfinity Series. He's not racing against a bunch of Cup guys, but he was amazing at Homestead in the Xfinity Series. He won the last 2 races there. He dominated them, and he loves riding the high line. That's something you can do at Homestead. It works, and I liked him at Darlington a lot, and you have to be able to ride the high line at Darlington to have success there, and Tyler Reddick did that just fine. He finished 7th in the first Darlington race, and then I think he finished 13th in the second one. He was 6th in average green flag speed in the first race at Darlington, and he's just been fast all season long. If we're looking at the track type form this year, or at least the past 2 years at high tire tracks, which Reddick doesn't have last year's statistics in the Cup Series, but the 4 races he's had so far at these types of tracks, he's averaging nearly 45 Draftkings points per race, an average finish of 11. I mean, he has just been phenomenal. He's been fast all season. He's been driving so much better than Daniel Hemrick did last year in that car. So I think Reddick is an excellent, excellent play today at a really nice price point, and I expect him to be very, very popular. Other guys I think are going to be popular are Eric Jones, Eric Almirola, and Cole Custer. Eric Jones just continues to be way too cheap. I know some people were telling me on Twitter that he's cheap because he's been sucking the past 2 races, but that's not how NASCAR pricing should work. I mean, NASCAR is a very high variance sport. Just because, say, Kyle Busch wrecked the past 2 races, that didn't happen, but say he wrecked the past 2 races, you're not going to price him at 6K just because he had 2 poor performances in a row. Like, that's just not how it works for NASCAR. In NBA, if a guy's just getting, added minutes each and every single night, yeah, you're going to up his price tag, but that's just not how it works in NASCAR. Eric Jones is like an 8 to 9K type of driver. He's got top 5 potential, especially at this track, one that he's been pretty good at so far. In the past 10 races at these types of tracks, the high tire wear tracks, he's been phenomenal compared to this price tag. He's got average 40 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 12, average rank position of 12.1, and he's got multiple top 5s and top 10s, 6 top 10s the past 10 races at these, 2 top 5s. So Eric Jones, I know he's starting a little bit up front, but he's got top 5 potential, like legit. So I do like Eric Jones. He's a very solid play. Is he as safe as a guy like Almirola or Custer? Not as safe, but I think he's got the highest finishing potential between all of these guys. So I do think Eric Jones is a pretty solid play. And Eric Almirola, he's about 1 to 1.5 thousand, way too cheap. Not way too cheap, but just too cheap. I mean, he's been very good at high tire wear tracks. He's got an average drive rating of 91.8, which is the best we've seen since Alex Bowman. 5 top 10s, 6 top 15s. He's starting 21st. He does not need to do much at all to pay off his price tag. So Almirola, expect him to be very popular today. And then Cole Custer, he's starting 35th. This is probably the easiest play on the entire slate. I mean, he is 3,300 cheaper than fellow rookie Christopher Bell, who's starting 36th. And look, they have pretty much the same numbers this year, and actually Cole Custer has been slightly better at these types of tracks so far. So Christopher Bell has got an average running position of 22.4, and Cole Custer's got an average running position of 21.8, which is slightly better than Christopher Bell. So I don't understand the huge price difference here. I mean, they should be priced the same, and they should probably be in the upper 7K range. And so Cole Custer is, in my opinion, the easiest play in the slate. The only way he's not going to make the optimal is if he runs into some trouble at some point in the race. And if I knew if a driver was going to get into trouble at some point in the race, we'd be filthy rich. Like if I could just predict who's going to have troubles during the race, but I can't. So in all likeliness, Custer will more than likely make the optimal lineup just due to his pricing and where he's starting. Yes, anything can happen where he, maybe he's a couple of points off the optimal, but I don't think Cole Custer will be the reason you don't make money today. I think Custer is an excellent option who is just extremely too cheap. All right, so then the last guy that I think is going to be really high owned is Michael McDowell. He is starting 30th. He comes in at 5,200. Don't understand the pricing here. He's below Timmy Hill, which makes absolutely no sense. I know Michael McDowell's not the most exciting roster in the world, but past 2 races, he's been very solid. And at these types of tracks, he's got an average finish of 24.2, an average running position of 23.9. If he can just do that, we can get close to 30 points out of Michael McDowell. And he's going to allow us to fit in guys like Truex, Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch. So Michael McDowell, I don't expect too much, but I don't think he's going to kill your lineups at all, especially at that cheap price tag. Like, he's only 200 more than BJ McLeod, which I think is just a mistake. So those are going to be your high-owned guys. So for tournaments, I'm not going to take too long here because I know there's a lot of questions coming in. But for tournaments, for dominators, I really just like Kyle Busch, Truex, and Harvick a lot, so I'm not too interested in anyone else. I mean, Elliott's been super fast this season, but he hasn't really dominated a high tire wear track so far. Joey Logano, I think he's actually a pretty solid option. I think he could be Denny Hamlin on the restart. He is starting second, and this has been a very good track for him. I'm not just completely relying on Homestead stats, but he's been much better than Denny Hamlin. Because Denny Hamlin on the pole at Homestead has not really been profitable for us, because I know a lot of you probably haven't played past Homestead races because it's been the championship race. I know a lot of people are new to NASCAR, DFS, but starting on the pole, Denny Hamlin's done that quite a few times the past few races at Homestead. He doesn't typically dominate, and he has no wins, no top 5s the past 6 races here, 3 top 10s. Meanwhile, Joey Logano's got a win, 4 top 5s, 5 top 10s, averaging more laps led, same amount of fast laps. But I'd prefer Logano here over Denny Hamlin. I'm not too high on either because I do think Truex, Harvick, and Kyle Busch are going to be better plays. But if I had to pick between Denny Hamlin and Joey Logano, I'll take Logano. I think he's going to have the better short run speed, and he's just been faster overall this season. So I'll take Logano, but I'm not too high on any of these dominators outside of Kyle Busch, Truex, and Harvick this week. And then some more mid-range guys I think we can look at are Ryan Blaney and Alex Bowman. So Alex Bowman, I think he's one of the better tournament plays on the entire slate. I'm not really sure what his ownership is going to be this week. I think it could either be decently high or it could be somewhere around 20%, because look, he's really cheap, but I know track history gets a big bump for ownership these days, because if you have good track history at a track, you get massive ownership. That's just what it seems like nowadays. So Alex Bowman's got really poor track history here at Homestead. Average finish of 22.6, 24.7 running position, but I'm throwing this out the window. I'm more relying on the track type form this week. And Alex Bowman crushes these high tire wear intermediate tracks. I mean, he's averaging 50 Draftkings points per race. He's got 2 wins, 3 top 5s. He's leading a ton of laps and getting a lot of fast laps. So I think Alex Bowman, if he gets up front and dominates, I mean, your lineup's going to be looking pretty good, because if you can get a dominator at 8,400, I mean, I would assume you have some really good PD guys. You could probably fit him in with a guy like Truex or Kevin Harvick, or maybe even both, or whatever, Kyle Busch, whoever you prefer. But I think Alex Bowman is a really strong tournament play. I mean, especially 8,400. Like, look, you can play MDB for the place differential upside. I mean, for sure, MDB might be a little bit safer, but MDB doesn't have that dominator potential that Alex Bowman does. So, I mean, if you're playing cash, I could understand wanting to go with MDB over Bowman, but Bowman's got that dominator upside, which, could net him over 100 points depending how it goes. So, yeah, I think Bowman's excellent for tournaments. You'd also look at Ryan Blaney and Kurt Busch. I prefer Ryan Blaney because Ryan Blaney's been super fast this season. I mean, he's got an average green flag. He's 5th in average green flag speed so far this season. He's been pretty fast at high tire wear tracks. If I'm just looking at my green flag sheet here, he was 2nd at Fontana. And I'm trying to find the other ones, but I don't think I have it off the top of my head. He was 7th at Atlanta, and then I have to find the others. But he's been fast so far this season. And I think he's still a little bit too cheap. He should probably be in that mid 9K range. He should be more expensive than Clint Boyer. He should be more expensive than Christopher Bell. I think Christopher Bell is extremely overpriced. And I think he should probably be right around where Keselowski is. So I think Blaney's a really solid tournament option. You could play him in cash because he's got that top 5 potential, but I think there's better cash plays than Ryan Blaney this week. But at these types of tracks, he's got an average running position of 10.6. Average driving near 100, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. So I do think Ryan Blaney is a very solid play. And then Kurt Busch, he's just been consistent all season long. So, I mean, he's not an exciting play, but he could sneak into the top 5. I mean, he's been really good and really solid so far this season. And outside of that, MDB, I think he'll be decently low owned just because you got guys like Reddick, Jones, Almirola, Custer. So I don't think a lot of people are going to pay $8K for MDB. Plus his track history sucks here, so that'll probably keep some people off of him. But I think he could tend for a top 10, top 15. And, I mean, Byron's okay. I'm not overly excited about Byron because there's guys that are cheaper than him that I like better, but you could go with Byron. And then just trying to look at some other tournament options. I don't think anyone's going to play Stenhouse. He's shown some speed recently. He's got 3 top 20s for the past 6 races. So you could look at Stenhouse. It's always risky to play him. But then really outside of that, these are all tournament options. I guess my favorite in the 6K range would be Austin Dillon at 6,200. He did announce on Instagram today that he is going to race, if I remember correctly. So I think you can safely play him. And no one's going to play Dillon because, first of all, he crushed everyone's lineups on Wednesday. So people are going to have that bias against him just from that. And then first of all, you have second of all, I should say, you have the Mega Chalk Cole Custer, you have the Mega Chalk Almirola, you have the Mega Chalk Eric Jones, and then you have Michael McGallitz in the 5,200 range. So who is going to play Austin Dillon? I don't think anybody. It wouldn't surprise me if he comes below 10%. And this has been a very good track for Austin Dillon. He's got 5 top 15s here the past 6 races, averaging nearly around 35 DraftKings points per race, average finish of 13.5. He could be very sneaky, and if something happens to Custer and Almirola, and Dillon has a really good race and maybe sneaks into the top 10, I mean, you're going to be looking really good in tournaments. So Austin Dillon, one of my favorite tournament options in that 6K range. Now, I trust the other guys way more than him, but I do think he's a decent pivot off of some of that chalk. And then if you want to get off Custer, you could just play Ryan Preece, but I'd prefer going with Custer. So that's pretty much going to be it for that quick rundown there, but I think ownership's going to be like. So if you guys want to ask some questions, I will answer it. All right, let me just scroll up here. A second. I'll let you guys ask some questions. I'll just check something really quick. Over 200 people watching. I do appreciate everyone tuning in. That is awesome. I know it kind of sucks for the people on the West Coast because it's like 8 in the morning there. I would never get up at 8. So, any day of the week. Let's see. All right. If I skip one of your questions, it's nothing personal. I got to start at some point. Let's see. Jim says, Chris, would you play 2 DOMs on lineups? Yes, I think 2 dominators is the way to go. If you want to play 3, I think it needs to be a guy like Bowman. So you're not going to be able to play like a Harvick, Truex, and Kyle Busch lineup. At least I don't think. I mean, it could work out, but I don't think that's going to be optimal. So if you're going to go with 3 dominators, I think it's got to be a Harvick / Truex with like a Busch, and then you want to pair them with like a Bowman because Bowman's just way too cheap. So you can make it out a 3 dominator lineup. So, but I think 2 is the preferred, but if you want to go 3, you could stretch it with Bowman because of the price tag. Wes says, just go ahead and hand me the $150,000 now and enjoy our Sundays. Yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? Tim says, old man is here. What's up, Tim? Nice to see you in here. Andre says, Kyle Busch day today. Well, you asked that before I started, so I assume I answered your question. I do like Kyle Busch. Danny says, yeet. Yeet. Matthew says, do you think Harvick, Truex, and Kyle on one lineup is too much? Well, I actually just answered that like 10 seconds ago, so hope that answered your question. I think that's a little too much for sure. Jeremy says, hey, Chris, quick question. I know you don't do FanDuel, but how do you feel about Bell and Custer, 6,600 and 6,400? What would you do? I'd probably play both then. That's how they should be priced on Draftkings. They should be like 200 apart, so. Someone on my Discord just said race got bumped to 250 Eastern. Or, I'm sorry, 250 Central. Okay, anyway. Sorry. Yeah, I think that's in FanDuel. I mean, if they're priced the same, I think you should probably play both. I mean, it just seems pretty obvious to me. Andre says, if you think they finish good, then go for it on FanDuel. Yep. Because on FanDuel, I hear that it's all about finishing potential. Or position, I should say. Mitch Miyagi says, the NASCAR GOAT. Appreciate it. Always nice to see you here. Matt says, Bell and Jones or MDB Byron in cash? I'd go Bell and Jones. Chris says, hit the like button. Yeah, I do appreciate you guys hitting the like button. It really helps me out in the YouTube algorithm. Past few videos, I've gotten like 300 likes, so that is pretty awesome. We're at the 250 people on here now, which is pretty cool. 63 likes. Nice. Thank you, guys. Purist says, Keselowski and McDowell or Jones and MDB? Well, I'm going to assume you have other dominators in your lineup besides Keselowski because you can't just go straight PD. So I'll go with Jones and MDB. And I'm going to assume you have some other dominators in there. Matthew says, what is the most salary you would leave on the table today? So I don't make my lineups by hand, so I don't really know exactly how much salary is left on some lineups. But I think I saw one with over 2K left, maybe. I for sure had to have Bowman as one of the dominators, and it might have used like a Kyle Busch, and then went with some cheap guys. So I think you can definitely leave salary on the table this week because how soft pricing is. But I don't hand build my lineup, so I don't know exactly what the most was. Matthew says Jones, Truex, Custer, Harvick. Yeah, well, I like all those guys you named. I'm not sure what the question is, but I do like everyone you just named a lot. Nothing to it says good morning to you too. Austin Dillon, Tyler Reddick, or Eric Jones. Okay, so Austin Dillon, Tyler Reddick, or Eric Jones, Eric Almirola. I'll go with the second option there, Eric Jones and Eric Almirola, and do appreciate you liking the content. Joseph says, were you a NASCAR fan before you started DFS? Who was your favorite driver? So I was a fan when I was little, loved NASCAR, had the shirts, had the Kyle Busch jacket, all that stuff, loved it, had the video game, and then I stopped watching it for a while, and then I saw Draftkings had a contest for one of the Daytona 500s, I think 2015 or 2016, so I started playing. I mean, I was like 16 back then, so don't tell anyone, but I was playing then, and then just ever since then, I started getting back into it. I love it. Watch every single race now. My favorite driver, it's Ryan Blaney. He's from Ohio, and I think he's really cool. So I like Ryan Blaney a lot. So if you hear me recommending Ryan Blaney almost every slate, that might be why. There's a little bias to it. Michael says Jones or Reddick. I will take Reddick, but both are excellent plays. Michael says, which of the low 6K guys you like the best? Almirola, Custer, or Austin Dillon? I'll say Custer, then Almirola, then Austin Dillon. Debris says Kyle Busch or Logano to win, place higher, not DFS, more fantasy live. I don't play fantasy live, so I'm not sure exactly, but I would go with Kyle Busch. It's really close just from finishing position because Logano seems to be there and consistent every single race, it seems like, but I don't know. I have a good feeling about Kyle Busch today. Jeremy says, Joey, is that you? Must be talking to someone in the chat. It's for you. Says, what do you think about MDB? I think I probably already answered this because I'm really behind on the chat. But MDB, I mean, he's fine. I wish he was a little bit cheaper because I prefer guys like Reddick, Jones, Almirola, Custer. So I think MDB is going to be decent alone. I think he's fine in tournaments. And you can play him in cash too. I think he's going to contend for a top 10, top 15. But I just wish he was a little bit cheaper. But he's fine. Nothing against him. OS says, thoughts on John Hunter Nemechek? I don't think I have any John Hunter Nemechek today. He is starting 18th, and I don't know. I think there's just better plays, and he's a rookie. So, I'll side with the Cole Custers of the world. I'd rather play Michael McDowell. I mean, you're going to get Nemechek at a really low ownership. So if you like that, I mean, you can go for it. But I just think there's better plays than Nemechek today. Tim says, can you go into why Blaney? I think I already answered that. I mean, he's just been really fast at high tire wear tracks this season so far. He's been solid all year. I mean, he's just getting multiple top fives. I know he hasn't been the best at steep tracks, but I think he can contend for a top 5 here. I mean, it really can. He's been so fast. I like Blaney. I think he's at a decently fair price point too. So I do like Ryan Blaney. Brandon says, what's up, guys? Was thinking it was 11. I'm all set, but figured I'd drop the support. I originally had it, I think you meant 2. I originally had it at 2 on accident because I usually have all my my Wednesday streams at 2, and I reused the same settings, so left it at 2 on accident. So hopefully people aren't going to miss it just because I thought it was at 2. Doug says, guess they will just keep McDowell always there, so I'm always playing him. Yeah, I mean, he's 5,200. I just don't see how you can't play him. I mean, I'm not playing him in every single lineup because with the soft pricing, I don't have to play him. I don't have to go all the way down there. I mean, Cole Custer, I mean, you can go as low as him in a lot of lineups, but if you have to dig down there, McDowell is just such an easy option. Travis says, if you had to pick one, Nemechek, Custer, or Bell GPP, well, big price difference with Bell there. We're talking like over almost 4,000 there, but just in general price, like value-wise, I'm going to go with Custer. D. Johnson says, you're the best. Thanks. You're the best too, D. Johnson. Appreciate you stopping by. Max says, cash lineup 2v2, Harvick and MDB or Truex and Kyle. Well, I love Harvick, but if you can get Truex and Kyle in the same lineup, I guess I'll go Truex and Kyle. But I really like Harvick, but if you're going to give me both those guys, I'll go with them. Oh, says thoughts on Kurt Busch. So I don't expect him to really dominate this race at any point, but I do think he could get a top 10 finish, but is that really enough at 8,600? I mean, I think Blaney can get more fast laps than him. I think Bowman can get up front and dominate, so I'm not that high on Kurt Busch. I have him sprinkled in my lineups, but not someone I'm like overly excited about today. Mike says Blaney or Bowman. I'll go with Bowman just because I think Bowman's more likely to dominate. But I think both are pretty solid options in that 8K range. Sarah says McDowell. McDowell's an excellent option down low. I mean, he's an easy pump play. He should not be this cheap. He should be above Timmy Hill. He should be right around where Ryan Preece is. So we're getting a really nice discount on him. Max says, ignore my last question. Okay, so, okay, yeah. Because, I mean, if you're going to give me Truex and Kyle, that's the easiest. I mean, that's a really easy answer. So it's Harvick and MDB or Truex and Kurt. I guess I'll go Harvick and MDB because, I mean, I really like Harvick today. Papers in here says Lego. I agree. Let's go. Sean says, morning all. Got in late. Morning, Sean. You didn't miss too much. Well, kind of. He actually did miss a little bit, but it's all right. Travis says, Recce. I think he's fine. He's a nice tournament pivot off of Reddick, but I prefer Reddick, but he's fine in tournaments. He's going to be pretty low on. Andre says, Ty Dillon chalk. I don't think he's going to be chalk at 6,700. I mean, I think people are going to play Eric Jones, Almirola, and Custer more than him, so I don't think he's going to be too high owned. I mean, he's not that great at Homestead. He's got an average running position at 23.4, average finish at 25.6. So if he's going to be chalk, I like being underweight for sure. I mean, that's just a little too steep for me for Ty Dillon. All right, I'm just checking how many people are in here. And my chat just went all the way down, so almost to 300. Nice. Let's see, where we go? I'm sorry, my chat went all the way down. Okay. Sincere Miller says, I don't mind Austin or Tyler. Austin Dillon, yeah. I think they're both pretty good options. I think Austin Dillon's a really strong tournament play today. Now, he is risky, so don't throw him in cash games or anything. Or don't make him that high owned. But if you want to sprinkle him in, I think that's really solid. And, I mean, if Custer or Almirola has a problem, you're going to be looking pretty good. Now, overall, I'll be very upset because I have a bunch of those guys. But if your Austin Dillon lineups work out, you'll be looking pretty good for tournaments. Let's see. Tim says Blaney has high banked ovals finishes that are 15th or worse. Yeah. Now, he hasn't been as good at steep tracks this year, but I think he's going to be pretty solid. He's been pretty solid at the high tire wear tracks. So, I mean, he was really good at Fontana and Atlanta. So, I do think Blaney will be good. Let's see. Dawson says Custer or McDowell. I'll go with Custer. Michael says that's an impressive water jug. Yeah, it's pretty big. Definitely lasts a while. Definitely get me through the video. Dustin says Truex or Kyle Busch. I think Truex scores more points, but Kyle Busch might be the better value at 10,100. But it's very close for me. Very, very close. You'd have to probably give me a 2v2 because, I mean, you're spending about 1,300 more for Truex. So you have to give or take a little for someone else. Sincere says, why is there so many crashes? Where, at Homestead? There's not really that many crashes at Homestead. I mean, there's a lot of crashes at Bristol and Daytona and Talladega, but it's pretty tame at Homestead. Chris says, Cup lock pushed back till 350? Really? Oh, I hate that so much because I just hate looking at my lineups just staring at me because I want to change them 50 times. So I just wish they'd lock now, and then we can just look at ownership for the next 3 hours. Ronnie Johnson says, Custer or Dillon in cash? Do you mean who? Which Dillon? Austin Dillon? Probably because it's the same price range. I'd say Cole Custer for sure. Not even close. Sean says, top play 10K and above. I mean, I think it's just pretty much either Kyle Busch, Truex, or Harvick this week. I mean, it's really hard to pick just one. So, I mean, I just make sure exposure between them. Quentin says, hey, are you going to go over your cash game options? You might have came in a little late, so if you want to watch it on replay, I don't want to just repeat it again because everyone probably get bored from me repeating the same thing twice. So if you want to watch it on replay, I went over who I think is going to be high owned and then who I think is going to be somewhat low owned earlier on in the video. So you just have to watch it on replay. Apologize, I just don't want to repeat it for everybody. Thomas says, who do you think will be 3 highest owned drivers sub 8K? Sub 8K, 3 highest owned drivers. I think Cole Custer, 100%. Then probably Almirola. Then I think it's going to be either Tyler Reddick or Eric Jones. So kind of just tie between them. But I think Cole Custer is going to be the highest owned driver on the slate, to be honest. Thomas, sorry, just read that. Let's see. KT says, you are funny. 8 a.m. is early. Yeah, it is early. I know for some people it's not, but I usually get up around 9, sometimes 10. Just depends when I go to bed. I like to play Call of Duty really late, so yeah. Travis says, I'm in the West Coast. Not too bad. Well, I'm glad you're up. Thanks for getting up and watching. AC says, yep. Man, I said this 8 a.m. comment a long time ago. How far behind am I in these comments? But yeah, 8 a.m. does suck. Landon says, hi, Chris. Off topic, but did you catch the Xfinity race yesterday? I don't play Xfinity, so I don't really get too into it. I mean, I know some stuff about it, and if I need to do some research on like some of these rookies, what happened in Xfinity series, I'll look at that, but I don't really watch or get into it too much. I kind of just took a off day Saturday, relax and stuff. And plus, it's double XP weekend for Call of Duty, so I was playing a lot of COD yesterday, so I was just grinding that away. Doug says, F it, I like Bell, but I'll just go Byron to be different. Thoughts on Reddick? Well, That's a big price jump from Bell to Byron, so I assume you're upgrading someone else. So you'd have to let me know who you're upgrading. But Reddick, I mean, I think he's one of the best players on the slate. He's got legit top 10 upside here. Let's see. Alan says this week's race package comparison, just pretty much everything besides the short tracks they've done this season. Matthew says Jones or Custer. Custer's probably the safest play on the board, so I'll go with Custer there. But Jones has the higher upside because he could legit get into the top 5. Matt says Bell or Jones or MDB, Byron, Cash. I'll go Bell and Jones there. Oh, wait. I was thinking you said Custer or Jones. Bell or Jones or MDB and Byron. I would say Bell and Jones. But, I mean, that price tag on Bell scares me. But, I mean, he could score close to 50 points, honestly. Wes says, how much Blaney is too much for 24 lineups? I'm getting a ton of him. I wouldn't know the exact percentage, the fraction in my head of what percentage it would be, but I would say anywhere from like 20 to 25% Blaney's pretty good. Maybe a little bit more if you really like him. PM says, who is the one driver you would lock in every one of your lineups if you had to? Custer. I mean, look, there's just no downside for Custer. Look, if he happens to wreck early and he finishes last, we'll take the L, but I can't predict that. And I think just in all likeliness, Custer will find his way into the optimal. I mean, he's 6K 35th. He's in Stewart-Haas equipment. I mean, he should gain around 15 spots today. Boldy says, hi, Chris. Hello, Boldy. Not trying to be mean, but that's your name. Jason says, smash the like button. I agree. I do appreciate the likes on here. Jace says, what do you think about Keselowski? Not too high on Keselowski. He's starting 3rd. I like his teammate Logano better, and then I like Kyle Busch better, so he's in an awkward spot. You can sprinkle him in. I have some exposure to Keselowski, but I think it's unlikely he makes the optimal today. But there's a chance, so that's why I have him sprinkled in case he leads a bunch of laps. So let's see. Tori says, if you were doing one lineup, who are you starting with? I'm starting with like Custer and Reddick. Like these PD guys, that's who you want to start with, and I think you can mix and match your dominators of Busch, Truex, and Harvick really this week. But if I had to start with someone in my lineup, it's going to be a Custer, then some other guys in the 6K range, and probably Tyler Reddick. Paper says I wouldn't go above 30% Blaney. Yeah, I think that's a solid way to be. Maybe anywhere from 15 to 30% Blaney. If you're lower on Blaney, maybe throw in 15. If you're higher on Blaney, go to 30. If you're in the middle and you don't know what to do with them, go with 20-something. At least match the field, and then it really won't hurt you too much, whatever happens with them. Brandon says, is 70% Custer and 20 lineup max too much? No, I mean, I wouldn't even hate if you wanted to lock Custer today, I don't blame you because he's just such a good play in my opinion. Look, I know things can happen where he could crash, but if he crashes, I can't help it. So that's why you should never go 100% on a guy, but it can work out. Wes says, thoughts on Nemechek? Answered that a few times. You might have missed it. Not too high on Nemechek this week. There's just better plays around him, and he's starting 18th. Sincere says, what's with all the love for Bell when Reddick has a better history than Bell? Yeah, that's one thing. I actually don't think Bell's going to be too high owned this week. And if he is, I think it might be a mistake because of his price tag. Like, it's an insane price tag for Bell, and he's a rookie. And yeah, just give me Tyler Reddick. His track history at Homestead is amazing. Cole Custer has been better overall this season. So yeah, Christopher Bell at 9,300 is just insane to me. Garrett says, isn't MDB overpriced on GK? Yeah, I think he is a little bit overpriced. That's why I'm not as high on him as guys like Reddick, Jones, etc. I'm not going to keep saying it, but I think that might make him a pretty solid tournament option if he's going to be lower owned. Now, I don't have a ton of MDB, but you can sprinkle him in. I think he's a pretty solid option. Jonathan says, MDB, Almirola, or Reddick, pricing aside. I will go with Reddick there. Jeremy says, Chris, why do you play DraftKings, not FanDuel? Is it a preference or a scoring thing? Well, I've always played on DraftKings, so I feel pretty comfortable with it. So I don't want to take time and learn FanDuel because I feel like it would just slow me down a little bit. So I just focus on what I feel like I'm pretty solid at, DraftKings, and I prefer the layout over at DraftKings too. Not a big FanDuel fan. Jason says, gotta have McLeod, am I right? No McLeod. No BJ McLeod. Boldy says, my favorite driver is Blaney too. Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy. Let's see. Wes says, I like his car too, 12 car. I like Team Penske too. Wes says, ran a crunch and got 94% Blaney. Yeah, that's way too much Blaney. Don't do that. I mean, if he makes the optimal, you're going to be looking amazing, but I don't think he's 94% likely to make the optimal today. DFS Rico, says Jones, Almirola, or Austin Dillon. I think Almirola is the best value between those guys. Darren says Truex, Harvick, Almirola, my core. Yeah, I like that core a lot. I think that's going to be a lot of people's core. Thanks for your homework. No problem, Darren. Dustin says Rock on the Range in Columbus is the best show every year. I travel all the way from Maine. Oh my gosh, Maine. That's really far. I have no idea what Rock on the Range in Columbus is, but I'll take your word for it. Michael says Keselowski plus McDowell or Bowman plus Almirola. I'll go with Bowman plus Almirola. Garrett says Kyle B is going to break hearts today. Don't do it. I think he might break the hearts of people that fade him today. It might be a little bit different there. I think he's going to be a pretty good play. I mean, I'm not saying going all in on Kyle Busch. Like, if I like someone a lot, I'm not saying lock button. You can't play anybody else, but I just think Kyle Busch is a good play. John says, hi, Chris. Hello, John. Tournament, would you go Kess, Reddick, or Blaney, MDB? Well, I really like Reddick, so I'm going to go with the Kess and Reddick option just because I think Kess is going to be pretty low owned. But I like over 100 likes already. Impressive, guys. You guys are awesome. There's also a dislike there. That's not very nice, but it happens. But let's see. What was the question again? Okay, so like I like Blaney more than Kess today, but I also like Reddick more than MDB. So you're giving me a really tough question. But since I like Reddick a lot, I'll go Reddick and Kess, but it's very close. If you can make it a way where you can get Blaney and Reddick, I feel like I'd rather do that and then play around with it more. Let's see. What's a good pivot off of MDB, Ron says. Good pivot off MDB, I guess Byron. I mean, they're priced a little bit different, and then you can go with Bowman too. They're kind of around the same price range. I guess either a Byron or Bowman. Although I think Bowman's going to be higher than MDB, so I'm not really sure if you call it a pivot. Let's see. Jack says Blaney or Bowman. So it's a tough question for sure because I think Blaney's got the better PD upside, obviously starting 11th, but I think Bowman's got the higher dominator potential. He's also cheaper. He's easier to fit in lineup, so it's a slight lean for Bowman for me just because he's been really good at these high tire wear tracks. Brent says comp caution lap 25, Logano or Hamlin to lead laps prior. I think Joey can lead the most laps too, but even if Hamlin does lead the first 25 laps, I don't really think he's going to retain that lead long or even just getting out of the pits because he's got a terrible pit stall because look, I don't even remember where he finished last race, but it was rough. So yeah, even if one of those guys leads the first 25 laps, I'm not going to be sweating it because I'm not going to be too high on them. I'd rather play Joey. But if Denny comes out, leads the first 25 laps, we saw it at Atlanta where Chase Elliott led the first 25 laps, and then he never saw the lead again, and he was not like he didn't crush it on us, but he definitely didn't get into the optimal. So I'm kind of viewing Denny Hamlin as the Chase Elliott play. Just a little bit more expensive. And plus, Hamlin, he doesn't even have a top 5 here the past 6 races. So, and he's really struggled on the pole here. So I'm not too confident in Denny Hamlin leading laps. I mean, yeah, he could lead the first 25 laps, but that's not going to be enough to hit the optimal. Andre says baby narrative with Austin Dillon. Well, the baby narrative did not work out on Wednesday. So the narrative has not changed yet. But this is a good track for Dillon, so I think he's fine. We just got to avoid getting a flat tire the first lap of the race. Sean says, any Priest love? I like him as a pivot off of Cole Custer, but I much prefer Custer, so he's like a very low end pivot to sprinkle in. Cameron says, Almirola Bowman or McDowell Keselowski? I feel like I'm getting a lot of these Keselowski and McDowell questions. I wonder if that's going to be a popular pivot today, but I'll go with Almirola and Bowman. Darren says, California checking in. Nice to see you all the way from California, really far away from me. Dan says, hi, good morning. Good morning to you, and thanks for the show. You're welcome. Sorry, Discord chat. Are there any drivers you won't pair together? I wouldn't play Logano or Hamlin together. I mean, I haven't really thought about that too much this week, but I don't think pairing Logano and Hamlin together would make sense at all. So, no thank you there. Let's see. Garrett says, so Blaney or Bowman, who do you like more for GPPs? I'll take Bowman because he's got that dominator potential. I mean, he's a little risky starting 8th, but, I mean, in tournaments, we're going for the home run, which Bowman can certainly hit the home run, so. Marie, apologize if I said it wrong. Do you have projection ownership in your Patreon? I do not have projection ownership. I wish I was able to do that, but I can't. You got to use a third-party source for that, so I apologize there. I do have my own GPP exposures there, which is not projected ownership. It's just my ownership, so I apologize. I don't have projected ownership there. Doug says, is Keselowski worth it today or just go Chuck Harvick? Look, you can sprinkle in Keselowski, but I prefer Chuck Harvick. I think he's Chuck for a reason. Frank says, Kyle Busch, Truex, and either Keselowski or Blaney. Don't be biased. I understand the bias because I love Chase Elliott. So I would take the savings with Blaney because Keselowski's starting third, and that's just going to be a tough. I mean, to get a guy starting fourth, sixth, and third, I'd rather take the PD upside with Blaney at starting 11th. He's also a little bit cheaper, so he might be able to fit another guy. So I'll go with the Busch, Truex, and Blaney. And no, it's not biased. Emmanuel says value picks for GPPs. Well, the easy value picks are Custer, Jones, Almirola, but in tournaments, you can look at Dillon and Priest, really. I think those are your decent pivots for cheap. Garrett says, what were Chris P's thoughts on... I'm Chris P, so I can answer this. Where'd it go? Oh my gosh, it went all the way down. Thoughts on Kess? You can sprinkle him in. I'm not too high on Kess. He's starting third. It's going to take a lot for him to get into the optimal, but the price is decent. Alex says, I heard Chevrolet cars have trouble on this track. Do you have lower projections for some car brands on some tracks? I don't really just base my projections off of the manufacturers. But I mean, this season Chevys have been really fast. It wouldn't surprise me if they outperformed what they usually do here. But I'm not really too high on any of the Chevys this week, like the big names. Like I'm not that high on Chase. I'm not that high on Jimmy. I'm not that well. I guess Bowman I'm pretty high on. So I'm not like it's not really something I'm factoring in too much. Now the Chevys have had a lot of speed this week. So I mean not this week, this year. So you give them a slight bump for that. But not something I'm really doing too into. Like, I like all the manufacturers this week. I like Bowman, he's Chevy. I like Truex, he's Toyota. I like Harvick, he's Ford. So, Jay says, Truex, Busch, Blaney, Bowman, Sam lineup. Yeah, you could do that. Wouldn't hate it. Because you got your two main Doms and Truex and Kyle Busch. Then you got Blaney and Bowman as, like, guys that can finish in the top 5, or even Bowman can up front. So I don't hate that. It could work out. OS says, thoughts on Newman at 6,900? He's just in a tough spot now. He has been pretty good at Homestead with an average finish of 12.5, but at 7K starting 14th, I would rather play Jones. I'd rather play Almirola. I'd rather play Dillon. I'd rather play Custer. So he's in a weird spot. Don't expect him to be high owned, and I don't really expect to have too much ownership on him. Jay says there are too many Doms. I think it might be a little too many Doms, which is why I'm hesitating at it, because there's a lot of good PD plays on Reddick, Almirola, Custer. Which, I mean, you can still fit Custer on there. So I'm worried it might be a little bit too many guys starting up front. But if they all top 5, they can certainly work out. So I wouldn't make that your main lineup. But if it's a tournament lineup, it could be okay. Dustin says Harvick and Kyle Busch or Truex and Kyle Busch. Can you do both? I mean, I know you're probably asking for one lineup, but I have a lot of lineups with that mix. I would go Harvick and Busch, though. And then my second option would be the Truex and Busch because I think those are both excellent pairings today. But if I'm building one lineup, I'm going to go Harvick and Busch. Matthew says Jones or Custer if you have MD, I'm assuming you mean MDB, and Almirola. I go Custer just because I think Custer is such a safe play today. John says someone just donated. I'll get to that in a second, but I do appreciate that. You don't have to do that. Not complaining though. John says, hey Chris, thanks for all your stuff on Patreon. You're welcome. Thanks for being a member on Patreon. How do you feel about fading Harvick and Kyle Busch and starting with MTJ and building a balanced lineup in large GPPs? I don't hate that. I have some lineups where I don't have Harvick and Kyle Busch because again, I love those guys, but I'm not going to play 100% of my lineups with them because look, anything can happen. But if you're playing MTJ, I still think you need 2 dominators, so you can play MTJ, but I wouldn't go full-on place differential. I think you should pair him with Martin Truex Jr. with a guy like maybe Bowman, but I still think you need another dominator in there, so if you want to throw in a Kyle Busch, I think that's fine, but I don't hate it. I still think you need 2 dominators, though. All right, let me get to that one comment. Someone who donated. Wilson, $5. Appreciate it. You did that last time too. I really appreciate that. You don't have to, but if you feel the need to, thank you a lot, or thank you much. You guys get what I'm trying to say. So thank you, Wilson. All right, let me go back up to the top. I didn't see you ask a question. Okay, you didn't answer the question. So, all right, where are we at? Yeah, someone said quite the crowd in here. Yeah, there's a lot of questions. I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of these questions. About 300 people watching now. Over 100 some likes. We do appreciate that. Oh, by the way, I know my girlfriend's watching, so I wanted to give her a shout out. We got our first win together last night as a duo, so shout out to her. That was really nice. She clutched it at the end, 1v2. Just wanted to give her a shout out. All right, anyway, where are we at? Okay, Alan says, or I'm sorry. Michael, okay, I'm going to start here. If I missed your question, I do apologize. Where are we at? Okay, never mind, I found it. Okay, Frank says, I have Truex, Busch, and what would be your third dominator from Logano and below? I would say Bowman because I don't want to go too top heavy there. So I think Bowman, if you're going to go a 3 dominator lineup, I think it should probably be Bowman this week. Cody says, hey guys, just got in. Welcome in, Cody. You didn't miss too much. Well, oh, wow, we're at 11:45. I was thinking we were 20 minutes in. My gosh, this goes fast. Okay, 2v2 Kyle and Logano or Truex and Brad? Oh, I don't know. It's a really good question. Really good question. So I like Kyle and Logano, but I really like Truex, but I'm not that high on Brad. It's a good question. I guess I'll go Truex and Brad, but man, that is a really tough question. Don't ask a question that hard. Put me on the spot. Garrett says, Austin Dillon, new baby narrative. Although it was also the new baby narrative on Wednesday. It didn't work out. So I'm playing Austin Dillon based off of this is a good track for him. But hey, if the new baby narrative is going to work out, hopefully it does. Michael says, what about Chase? So I'm definitely underweight on Chase. He just hasn't been that dominant at high tower tracks so far this season. And I prefer the other guys. And I can't play everybody. So he's in a weird spot for me. I don't think he's a bad play, but I'm not that high on him. Johnny says, what do you think about Jimmy Johnson today? Jimmy Johnson is someone I think is in a very weird spot. I'd rather play Kyle Busch, and I just don't think Jimmy Johnson's going to dominate. Could he sneak into the top 5, pick up some fast laps? For sure. I just think it's very unlikely he hits the optimal today. Alan says, Brzezinski, Joey, or Bowman, most points today. Thanks for your work. Well, just strictly the most points, I'd probably say Joey Logano. But value-wise, I would say Bowman's the better play between all those guys. But just straight points, I think Joey can score that group. Josiu, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I'm not sure. I've never seen that name before. Do you recommend Custer and McDowell in the same lineup? You can do it. That's not my most favorite build, but I assume you're probably getting like a Harvick Truex up top, so I don't hate that. Both are really good plays. No Sleep, I know you're on Patreon. We appreciate you on Patreon. You ask Jones, Dillon, or Custard. I would go with Custer. Luke says, sorry if I missed it. Did you say anything about Byron? I didn't really talk too much about Byron. I just said he's okay. I think he can contend for a top 15 today, but I don't think it's going to get anything too crazy. I think he finishes anywhere from 10th to 15th. Let's see. CJ the Great says, for those playing Xfinity, Gragson, Hemrick, Ware, Avila, Allgaier, Vanderwall, to the back. I'm not playing, but I do appreciate CJ giving out some useful information in here. Aaron says, hey Chris, quite the crowd in here. Yeah, for sure. It's pretty busy in here today. There's a lot of comments, which is fun. I love interacting with you guys. Makes it really fun. Mike says, Bowman over Kess. I would say yes, and you can also save some salary, so you could probably upgrade someone else. Robbie says, weather ain't looking too good here in Florida. That's unfortunate. Is it like supposed to rain all day, or is there just chance of storms all day? Because, there's a big difference there. Hopefully it's just a chance of storms, because, pop-up storm, gets sunny quick, dry the track, something like that, hopefully. Thoughts on Priest over Cole Custer? I don't like it, but it's a decent pivot, but I'd much rather play Cole Custer. In the better equipment for sure. AC Barker says, who's the pivots off of Custer? What the guy just said above you. That would be Ryan Priest, really. Or I guess Austin Dillon, too. Waynish says, nope, Austin Dillon is the must-own. He will be money. Well, I like him in tournaments. I just don't think he's the must-own, but I do think he's a very solid tournament play down there. Sarah says, thank you. You're welcome, Sarah. Julie says, I'm in late. Sorry if you covered it. All good. I know people can't come in at the beginning. Hamlin, Dominator. Look, I think he can lead the first 25 laps, but outside of that, I don't think he's going to be too much of a factor getting up front the rest of the day. Can he finish in the top 5? For sure, but he has failed to do that the past 6 races here. And he started on the pole multiple times the past 6 races here, and it's not worked out for him Dominator-wise. So I like being underweight on Denny Hamlin this week. I mean, you can full fade him. Yes, it is a little risky to full fade someone, but if you want to, take a stand on it. And if he's going to be 20% owned because he's in the pool, you're going to looking pretty good if he loses that lead early on, which I think is definitely possible. Wayne says, would Las Vegas be a good track to compare to Homestead? You could. I mean, that's a comparable track. It's more of a secondary comparable track because Las Vegas isn't really high tire wear, but it's got like the same premise to it. Other tracks that are high tire wear that do compare to Homestead would be Atlanta. You're also looking at Chicagoland, Fontana even, and you could also look at Darlington, which is also another steep track, which isn't exactly a 1.5 mile track, but it's still steep and high tire wear, so hope that helps. Smoking Gun says, what's up, Chris? Is this the kind of race? What's up? Is this kind of race where it'd be okay to leave around 900 on the table given the... Yeah, for sure. I have plenty of lineups that have over 900 left on the table, I think, looking at Fantasy Cruncher, so that's totally fine. I think one of my favorite lineups has 900 on the salary, 900 left on the table too, so we might have the same lineup there. Captain Rob, I think that's what your name says, Captain Rob, says Bowman or Keselowski. A lot of people have that Bowman-Keselowski question today. I will go with Bowman, just because he's starting a little bit further back and he's a lot cheaper. Andre says, why is Bell so expensive on TK? I think we all have the same question, and it makes no sense at all to me. He should not be that expensive. And why is Cole Custer over $3,000 cheaper than him when they're basically the same play today? I don't get it. Mary says, where are you getting your ownership from, Roto-Grinders? I actually have Fantasy Cruncher, the premium, so it's just whatever site that's from. It shows up on the table. But, I mean, outside of that, it's just kind of a guessing game because those ownership projections really aren't that accurate. But, I mean, I feel like everyone's got the same idea this week. Everyone's going to play Reddick. Everyone's going to play Jones, Almirola, Custer, Harvick, Kyle Busch. I think everyone's going to be landing on those kind of guys. PM says, awesome. Thanks for answering, Chris. Keep up the great work. I feel like I answered your question a while ago, so I must be really behind on the chat, but you were very welcome. Mr. Miyagi says, how do you feel about Priest? I'm not as confident in Priest as I am with Cole Custer, but I think he's a decent pivot off of Custer, but I'm not too excited about it. I'd much rather play Custer. He's a much better equipment. Sarah says, you're awesome. Appreciate it. You too. Travis says, how do you feel about Clint Boyer today? I like Clint Boyer. He's a cool guy, but just not feeling him today. He's 9K. He's ranked 12th. Average finish here of 16.7. At these types of tracks, he's got an average finish of 18.1. Average running position at 13.5. Not really seeing it at Clint Boyer today. He's okay, but he'd be a decent pivot off of Ryan Blaney, I guess. Jason says, any Xfinity hot takes? I know nothing, so I don't want to give any advice about Xfinity. I don't want to pretend I know stuff about Xfinity. Matthew says, Jones or Almirola? Almirola is the better value, I think, because he's starting 21st, but Jones has more upside because I think he could get into the top 5. I think he's more likely to get in the top 5 than Almirola, but Almirola is safer starting 21st. Chris says, Jimmy J, kind of touched on that a little bit ago. I'm so behind on the chat, I probably already answered this, and you probably already know the answer to it, but not that high on Jimmy Johnson starting 9th. I think there's better plays today. Jay says, top value plays, do you like Bell? Top value is pretty much Custer and McDowell than the other Almirola Jones guys. And then, do you like Bell? I mean, I think Bell could score over 40 points pretty easily, but at 9,300, I can get the same output from Cole Custer. So I don't really like Bell. You can play him in the same lineup. I think he's safe, but I think he's way overpriced too. Tim says, any team stacks today, like last week, Penske? Yeah, I loved the Penske stack last week, and it looked terrible early on besides Logano, but Blaney and Keselowski came back in a big way, so that was really nice. Even MDB had a good race, which he's not technically Team Penske, more of an affiliate for Wood Brothers, but with Wood Brothers, I should say. But yeah, Penske crushed. As far as a team stack today, not really going on my way to do it. Let me see. I mean, you could go with Gibbs, though. Truex, Kyle Busch, Eric Jones. Not too high on Denny Hamlin, but if you want to go with the 3-man Joe Gibbs stack today and Truex, Busch, and Jones, I think that's fine. You can easily fit them in together. Let's see, going down. Michael says thoughts on Chase Elliott. Just not that high on him this week because I just prefer the other guys, and I don't want to recommend everybody. So I have to take some stands. Can Chase Elliott come out here and dominate? Sure, but if we're looking at these high tire wear tracks and these guys that are 10K and above, which I think is on the screen right now, he's only averaging 32.5 DraftKings points per race of these compared to the other guys, 75, 67, 60, 47, 45. Not saying he's a bad play, but I don't like the price too much and like the other guys around him, so not as high on Chase this week. Could have burned me because he's just been so fast this season. Sure, but I'm willing to take my chances. You got to take a stand. I can't just play even with the whole field because I won't win. I'll just break even every race. So you got to take some stands, and I like the other guys better. Which No Sleep says Chris Buescher. So Buescher is not. He's not a bad driver, but he's starting 13th. I like the price of 5,500, but if we're looking at these types of tracks, the past 10 races, he's got an average finish of around 20, and he's got 5 top 20s, but he's starting 13th. He needs to hang around the top 15, which I don't think is that likely, so not really on Chris Buescher this week. All right, let's see. Garrett says, because DK is just... I agree. I think DraftKings is better than FanDuel. All right, I got to go down a little bit. I can't do all these comments, or we're never getting out of here. Okay, I'm going to... Oh, I just seen Concha said live now. I thought it was 2 p.m. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I know you were in the live chat yesterday whenever I posted it. I accidentally put it at 2 p.m. because I reused the same settings. Forgot to change that, so I apologize. I did try to tweet it out, though, but yes, it was at 11. I'm sorry. On weekdays, it's at 2. Sundays, it's usually at 11, just depending on whenever. All right, I got to skip some of these comments because we'll be here forever if I read every single comment. So if I miss it, nothing personal. Let's see. Andre says it's usually at 11 a.m. for the... Yeah, Andre knows what's up. Derek says, who scores more, McDowell or Almirola? Probably Almirola. I think I said Almirola. Dave Jones says, do you suggest Harvick, Truex, Kyle Busch, Eric Jones, Cole Custer, and McDowell in single entry? So it's a full lineup. So let's see. We got our 2 dominators in Harvick and Truex. That's good to go. Kyle Busch is a third. I think you're pushing it a little bit with the third dominator. It can work out, but I think you're going to miss out on a solid tournament option. And if one of those guys doesn't dominate at that price tag, it's going to kill your lineup. So I think you should slim that down to 2 of those 3 guys. So look, Harvick, Truex, Kyle Busch, all elite options. I would pick 2 though and add an extra place differential guy I think that's going to be close to what the optimal is going to look like today. Conscious says, Chris, every time I tinker with my lineup, I end up with the same 6 in my heart. Let him ride. Yeah, see, that's why I don't hand build, because whenever I hand build, I feel like I'm just going to build the same lineup every single time. So that's why I use an optimizer, upload my projections, and then just look at my percentages, and then I don't have to know what the lineups actually look like after I set my settings. Works out much better for me. Let's see. Joe says, thoughts on Kurt? He's been fast at 1.5. Yeah, Kurt's been really good this season. If we're just looking at his current season statistics, Kurt Busch, whoops. Okay, where are we at? Okay, so Kurt Busch, he's got an average finish of 9.7, 3 top 5s, 5 top 10s. I think he can finish inside the top 8, but at 8,600, I don't know if it's going to be enough. Like Bowman, I think, can dominate the race. Ryan Blaney can get to the top 5. I think Kurt Busch is a fine play. I think he's going to go lower owned than Bowman and Ryan Blaney, so he's a solid tournament option. But I'm not too high on him, but I don't think he's going to kill your day for sure. And if anything happens to Blaney or Bowman, and Kurt Busch has a good day, you'd probably be looking pretty good. Oh, Alfred, he's in caps lock, so I'll make sure I'll answer this. How big is this race not being the last? Like, how much the difference? I can't give you the exact percent different, but it's definitely different because no one wants to get into the way of the 4 championship cars. They're usually the fastest. They had the most speed. So it's definitely different. You're not going to see the... I can't really use a comparison because we don't know the 4 championship cars yet. So it's definitely different. The conditions are different. I don't think it's going to be too crazy different, but it's definitely going to be a little different. Big Ritter says, making lineups right now while taking input from you. It worked out last week. Awesome. Glad to hear that. Let's see. Chris says, Bell or Custer on FanDuel. Yeah, I don't play FanDuel. I would say they're pretty much the same play. Can you play both? I think they're both should be pretty good. Cody says, pool is a low end. I'm just personally Xing out anyone not named McDowell down in that scrub tier. Evan says, subscribed and liked. Keep these live streams covered. Thank you, Evan. I appreciate it. The live streams will keep on going as long as you guys like them, which it seems like you do. So, usually get quite a few hundred people in here every single time. So, definitely become. Anthony says, if you're playing one single entry, who do you play besides Kyle, Harvick, or MTJ? Who am I playing? I'm probably playing a lot of these guys in the 6K tier and probably Tyler Reddick, so that helps. Custer, definitely. The Briz says, give the video a like for the NASCAR. Appreciate it, the Briz. I do appreciate the likes on here. Let's see, I gotta skip down a little bit. Do I like Ryan Blaney? Yes. Austin Dillon had the baby this morning? Did he? I didn't know that. Oh, okay. I didn't know he already had the baby. Oh, that makes things easier, doesn't it? Thank you guys for telling me. Let's see. DFS Pope says he's ready to take down the 15K. I think you forgot the 0. I think it's 150K to first, right? Yeah, I would not mind taking that down, but I feel like if whoever wins it will tie with everybody. So we'll probably split $10 up top. Robbie says it's been storming the past week. Usually just a 30 to 1 hour storm and it's done. Hopefully that'd be nice. Dustin says he's probably already taller than us. I could see that. Pecan Pie says, do you like Dillon? I assume you mean Austin Dillon, and yes, I do for tournaments. RJ says Austin Dillon or MDB. Well, I'd say just in general MDB, but it's also a big price difference, about 2,000. So it'd probably be better if you gave me a 2v2. Tony says, how do you think Almirola would do? I think he's probably anywhere from the top 10 to top 15. Right around there. He doesn't need to do much to hit value. So Chris says, so you would take the top 10 drivers for FanDuel for points? I don't play FanDuel, so I'm not exactly sure what to tell you there, but the guys that finish high over on FanDuel, I guess, are the best plays. Garrett says, Jimmy Johnson for the win today, or am I ducked up? You might be a little ducked up, just a little bit. I don't think it's going to happen, but it can happen. It can happen. Matthew says, you the man. Appreciate it. Jones or Almirola? Or, well, you said Almirola, but I will go with Almirola just because he's a tad bit cheaper, starting a little bit further back, but both are excellent plays. Tony says, who do you think will score the most points of a driver less than 9K? Okay, let's see. Less than 9K. Honestly, Reddick is a top option for me there. He could get into the top 10. He's averaging nearly 45 Draftkings points per race at these types of tracks, and I think him, Bowman, or Blaney will be in contention for that, even MDB. But if I had to put money on it, I would say the safest way would be Reddick because he's got the positive PD upside, and Bowman could lose spots. So I think I'd say Reddick, but it's close. Will says your top 3 in DFS. Well, it's hard to give a top 3, I guess. Like value-wise, Custer, Almirola, and Reddick, I think, are all very solid options today. Conscious says Murphy's Law will tell us Almirola finishes second today since he started the... Yeah, that'd be nice. If Almirola finishes second today, I'm going to be one happy person. I'll tell you that. Max says Jones and MDB or Eric and Bowman for cash. Whew. I guess Jones and MDB because, well, I don't know. I want to play... Man, there's too many good questions here. You guys are getting smart. Well, you already were smart. You're getting smarter. These are good questions. Oh. Right now, I'll say Jones and MDB just because you get the more place differential upside. And if Bowman moves back in cash, won't be looking too hot, but it's very close. Like, I like all those guys a lot. If you could find a way to play them all, feel free to do so. Although MDB is a little bit overpriced. I don't think he's going to be high in cash. So, Almirola and Bowman might... It's close. It's really close. Garrett says, I'm out of here. See you, Garrett. Have a good day. Hopefully you do well today. Conscious says, I had top 4 and 459. Yeah, I think that's my best line. I've had the 459. I think it finished like second or third. Quarter jukebox. Oh, no. Oh, that sucks. Sorry. Sorry that happened. Oh, a smaller quarter. Oh, my gosh. Sorry. Too bad that wasn't in the big tournament. Rob says, Bell, 6,600, Custer, 64. I know you don't play FanDuel. Input on this is appreciated. I guess Bell, but I like both a lot. Someone named Brandon Dutton just signed up on Patreon. Do appreciate that, Brandon. I don't know if you're in here, but I saw the email. If you have a lot of place differential plays, would you play MDB or Bowman? I guess you could throw Bowman in there to get some Dominator upside. Let's see. Wilson says, really wish I could play Draftkings. They kicked me off about 5 years ago. Been on FanDuel since. Really, they kicked you off. What'd you do? Wyatt says, who scores more points today? Austin Dillon, Almirola, Custer, or Jones? Whew. So many good questions about you guys. I'd say Jones has the most upside because he can get to the top 10. But it's really close. I don't know. Because if Custer gets into the top 20, we're looking at a lot of points. And Jones could fall back, but I think Custer's the best value option there. I think he's the best bang for your buck, him or Almirola. Dave says Kurt Busch, not Kyle. Oh, I'm sorry, that changes things. So if I scored back up, I'm never going to get back to these comments. So I think you said Truex, Harvick, Kurt Busch. Yeah, that's fine. I don't hate that. Let's see. How many people are in here? All right, we're not going to go too much longer because we're over an hour. But let's see. Sarah says thoughts on Hamlin. Like, he could lead their laps before the competition caution, but I'm not really that high on Hamlin this week. I just think there's better Dominator plays. I don't think he's going to stay up front too long. And he's going to need to at that price tag. I mean, he's decently cheap. He's not like it's 11-something thousand, but it's a little steep. Jeremy says, I just go to the gym before lock. That way I don't mess up my line. That's a good strategy because you don't have access to your laptop, so you might have to do something like that. Tony says, here is the winning lineup. Harvick, Kyle, Bowman, Reddick, Almirola, Custer. Your thoughts? Well, I'm not going to give it away, but let me just say I really like that lineup today. A lot. Jeremy says, only 20% Custer. Hope it doesn't burn me. It's risky for sure. I think he's going to be the highest owned driver on the slate, so it's going to be risky, but it can work out if he has an issue. Jeremy says, way more Jones than Custer myself. I actually just have a lot of both of them, but yeah, I definitely get pivoting off of Jones to Custer if that's what you want to get different for. Get to 200 likes for the NASCAR YouTube GOAT. What are we at right now? Man, almost 200. That's pretty good. All right, I don't think we're going to be here too much longer. I actually caught up all the way to the chat. So if I missed any of your questions, it was not on purpose, but I think I'm going to get out of here. Hopefully you guys enjoy the race today. Hopefully you guys make some really good lineups, and hopefully none of our guys crash that we're high owned on. So appreciate it. Hopefully the rain stays away, and I'll see you guys in the next live stream. Oh, this is awkward. I'm not on the page yet. So, okay, ending the stream. See you guys in the next video.